Alright guys, time to grab here back again today. Hope you're enjoying your day so far, and today we're going to talk about what Hitch had to say in his Black Ops 2 throwback tournament yesterday. He kind of hinted that Coach Karma may be a possibility this upcoming season. He's discussing how this complexity lineup was formed, mentions coach. Is that something which is going on behind the scenes? Where would he even land if he is a coach? That's a big question mark right now, and does he necessarily want to do it? Because I'm sure that a lot of players who've seen it with the likes of B-Sport, Josh for example, this season over at the Paris Legion, where he coaches for a season, then he thinks like, I need to get back in the ring, and comes back to playing, right? There's probably an element of coaching where it makes you miss your playing days even more, and does Karma necessarily want to take on that responsibility? Well, it's certainly a next step that he could consider, because I'm sure a lot of players would like to have him as the coach for their team. Like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Before we get into the Karma stuff, wanted to mention a few roster mania things. So the Royal Ravens confirmed Dominate as their head coach returning for CDL 2021. Shane as well as the assistant head coach, he's back as well. So of course we're talking about coaches. Probably worth mentioning this, that the Royal Ravens are signing these guys back, despite basically dropping everyone off their actual professional roster. And well, Shawnee, Alex, Dylan, Colin, Zero, I believe is the current rumour for what that squad is going to look like. Ogre2 as well tweets this out. Havoc streams returning in style. Havoc actually hasn't been officially confirmed yet back to the Florida Mutineers. It's going to be Skies, it's going to be Awakening, it's going to be Pharaoh. Frosty is gone. The question mark is Havoc going to stay? Is it just going to be that 5-man lineup minus Frosty? That's your 4 versus 4 squad. Honestly, a pretty nasty squad when it does get confirmed. If it does get confirmed, I think this squad has a lot of upset potential, as we saw really from the Mutineers this season. And to be honest, no one's really talking about them. So certainly a discussion that we get to have. And well, credits me at this one, which is pretty funny. And Mutineers come back to it with this gift right here. So they're off the scene. But yeah, seems to me that Havoc probably will be their 4th, all things considered. Rated tweets this as well. Everything happens for a reason. A new chapter begins. What does this potentially mean? Is it on the Warzone side? Is it on the competitive side? Is he somehow still on an organization somewhere? Who really knows? But I thought I'd point it out for you guys to keep an eye on. We get this from Credit CDL Intel as well, or Journey comes out and says that Journey, Lucky, Metals, and Nvidia and some Spanish guys are teaming for the 2021 season and will be playing in NA. Pretty interesting how EU, as is described here by, well, Ask Judy. EU in Spanish is Estados Unidos or whatever, United States. So they're going to be out in the US this season, even though, like, it says EU. I don't know. Bit confusing to me. But that's pretty cool to see, quite frankly. Journey was on the Atlanta FaZe Academy team last season, or he was a substitute on the Atlanta FaZe roster. Of course, you're never going to get anywhere, right, if you're a substitute on the Atlanta FaZe. So this season playing in challenges makes a fair degree of sense. And even though he pocketed, like, I suppose, the minimum salary requirements last year, now he actually gets the opportunity to prove himself again, as he did throughout Black Ops 2, right? Do you remember how much people were gassing up Journey during, like, the early part of Black Ops 2 on the Heretics team? I think Pac-Man said at one point, like, he was a top 5, top 10 player in the game or something like that. So pretty remarkable. Going to be cool to see these guys back in action, because Metals as well is such a fun player to watch, and, Lucky, of course, but these guys just haven't had their opportunity to compete, stuck on, well, the Toronto Ultra in these guys' case last season, and Journey on the bench over at the Atlanta FaZe. Phantom says this as well. Myself, Sibilance, Rex, and Jimbo looking for an organization to represent in the Cold War season. This is fun to see as well, because Phantoms once again in Black Ops 4 was a great assault rifle on that Evil Geniuses squad. Didn't get to see him do anything this season on the Paris Legion because they decided not to bring him in. Sibilance, we know, is a very talented player as well, so definitely some great opportunities here for what we're going to see in the Challenger side this season, and I think there's going to be some very spicy competition indeed. So as we talked about earlier today, the $20,000 Black Ops 2 Charity Invitational presented by Turtle Beach and Rockadders, Davis, Hitch hosted, and well, the rest of the guys, of course, the Plutonium team. There were so many people involved to pull off this fantastic event, but Team TP was Tyler, Team Crimsix, Karma, and Eggs, a throwback to the Complexity squad from Black Ops 2 and Ghosts. It was the Dynasty at the time, playing on PC, of course, not mouse and keyboards, and we discussed earlier today how this team ended up falling short in the finals to Parasite's team and the drama associated with that. But when Hitch goes to introduce these guys and what the team is actually going to look like for the match they're going to be playing, he introduces, well, Eggs as like retired pro player, which is kind of funny because I think that Eggs is still trying to get a spot on the team potentially somewhere or in the CDL. But, he mentions him as that, and he mentions Karma as something, well, rather interesting.
He plays Warzone, so we got him to pick up this coach. His name is Karma. Yeah. And then they're also playing with a retired pro aches.
So Karma retired in, I think, June this year to, well, the shock of a lot of the community, right? It was pretty unexpected. Yes, the Seattle Surge was an absolute disaster, and I think Octane has talked about how, well, Karma actually wanted to run the main assault rifle, as he's talked about a little bit for the last couple of years. They gave Karma the main AR. Octane was running an SMG for a couple of days, which I mean, like, you know, come on, if you've got Octane running an SMG at any point, you're probably just doing your team wrong, and it's not going to work. So anyway, they run that for a couple of days. It doesn't really work out, and then Karma is relegated back to the SMG, I suppose. Octane picks up the AR, and then Karma's just like, I'm done, I'm out of here. Our results are awful. It's effectively like tainting my legacy, I suppose. I don't really know. And so obviously he didn't feel like competing again. Not exactly a bad decision to make, especially the time he decided to do it, because your stock as a guy like Karma on the Seattle Surge isn't really going to be getting anywhere. You're hardly going to just like hop into an Atlanta FaZe or a Dallas Empire the next season. So probably a decent time to step away. Question is though, what does Karma do next, right? Because he hasn't been officially like picked up to the Huntsmen or anything. That was certainly the discussion from Hector at the time. We'll get Karma back with the family, I suppose, over with Chicago as a streamer or whatever, but it hasn't really happened, right? We've had several months now since his retirement. He's just kind of been streaming, doing his own thing, right? And would he consider coaching? Certainly something which is on the table. I think a number of players would certainly love to hear his insight, and I think Gunless even said a couple of years ago on a podcast that, look, there's not many coaches that I, as Gunless, am going to be listening to, right? Because they haven't played the game at the high level like I have at the most recent times. The only guy I would listen to is basically Karma, is kind of what he said in an interview. So definitely would be a very highly sought after coach for a number of different teams. Will it happen though is kind of interesting, right? Because there's been all this drama going on behind the scenes with, okay, what's happening with Optic Gaming Los Angeles? What's happening with Chicago Huntsmen? Is Huntsmen going to even exist as a brand next season, as we talked about yesterday and earlier today? And if that is the case and all this stuff's going on behind the scenes, and I'm sure the 100 Thieves, Los Angeles Thieves stuff, which has just come out, has been very, well, difficult to navigate for the likes of Slasher and the other guys over at Los Angeles Thieves. I'm sure it's a pretty difficult situation to navigate as well if you are Coach Karma right now, potentially coming into one of these teams. If you are Karma and looking to coach a team, which team is the best target for you to coach, right? Because the fact that he hasn't joined the Huntsmen yet maybe makes me feel like it's not necessarily going to happen. Maybe they're holding off of that deal in terms of like the content side, because he might want to coach another team, because Chicago Huntsmen, of course, right now have Cinder as their main coach. You got Atlanta FaZe who have Crowder as their main coach. You got Dallas Empire as Rambo Ray. Minnesota Rocker have plenty of coaches as well. Seattle Surge have Joey Nubsy. So most of these teams have coaches. So what direction would you exactly go, right? Minnesota Rocker, for example, have Brian Saint. Los Angeles Gorillas have Bevels and Ricky over there as well. Toronto Ultra have Marky B. Los Angeles Optic Gaming, well, the LA Thieves actually do not have a coach. Maybe that is the opportunity, actually, because I think they have a guy called Stoop or something. They had Pac-Man early season. Then they have like Stoop. He doesn't really do too much like analytical gameplay stuff, but is more like a mental coach, I suppose. But that hasn't really been officially confirmed anywhere. So maybe Los Angeles Optic is a target, right? And they were holding off on a coach, potentially trying to get Karma in the new season. Subliners, of course, have John, Raven, Bobel. Mutineers have Ricky Achura. I think Ravens, we just talked about at the start of this video, what their coaching staff looks like. And Paris Legion is in an interesting spot. But if you're Karma, do you want to go and coach the Paris Legion? I'm not so sure. So out of all the pro teams, the only one that really makes sense to me is probably Optic Gaming Los Angeles, which is then becoming Los Angeles Thieves, right? So maybe Karma joins 100 Thieves as their coach. And, is that a reason why he hasn't necessarily signed for the Chicago Huntsmen yet on the content side? Because, well, he was trying to figure out something else behind the scenes. Not really sure, quite frankly, but there's certainly a number of discussions to be had on this in the comment section below. Wanted to finish off the video with this, which I thought was pretty entertaining. Yesterday, we talked about LA Thieves and who their fourth could potentially be. Today, we're talking about their potential coach. But, well, Temp, of course, was the big name that was going around. And it was pretty entertaining, actually, you guys pointing out in the comment section below how back in the World War II days and prior, especially, Temp versus Nature was a big beef, right? And it would be pretty funny if that cost him a spot. Because as Silly says, did you put Temp in there by accident to draft buff? Like, which player do you think is going to get the next COD Champs ring? And saying, like, there's no way it's going to be Temp. Does that mean that Temp isn't even getting on a starting spot, right? And could it potentially be that beef with Nature from a few years ago is coming back to bite him now that Nature actually has some roster decisions to be making over this 100 Thieves lineup? And there's a pretty funny clip of this that I'll play on screen to finish out the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Let that man Temp run his mouth and say what he said about you. Nah, I heard all that. Listen, bro, I'm not even trying to get into trash talk with Call of Duty players. I got 9 major championships, regardless of who my teammates were. 99% of players competing to this day don't even have 1 major. So if somebody wants to run their mouth versus my legacy, that's fine. I ain't got a problem with it. But he's gonna have to back it up when everything's said and done. When he's finished with everything. We'll see if he got half as far as I did. Good luck.
You grab this, right? Nade shot. Your gun skill is still garbage. You're still trash at Call of Duty. But your fucking G Fuel, my this shit is fire. Alright? You grab this shit.